Can magnesium really help you sleep at night? Let's find out on this podcast from Which. Hello, I'm James Rowe, and on this special podcast series focusing on health and well-being, we're going to give you expert advice and recommendations to help you live your best life every day. Joining me on this second episode of the series, they are both back. Shefali Loth, public health nutritionist here at Which. Shefali, hello.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Likewise, and the founder of City Dietitian, Sophie Medlin. Sophie, how are you?
Hi, I'm well, thank you.
Very good. Now, this episode is all about magnesium. Can we just clarify what it actually is? Because I guess for some people, it might just be an element on the periodic table. But for us today, it's a bit different. What's the background of it?
Magnesium is a really essential nutrient. It's a mineral that we need. So if you think of it being like iron and calcium and other minerals that we have in the diet, it's really essential for so many different bodily functions. Far too many to mention. Hundreds of bodily functions rely on magnesium. Things like neurotransmitters, so our brain chemistry being correct, relies on magnesium. Muscle relaxation and muscle contractions, the heart beating and all of these things. Magnesium is really essential for all of these bodily functions. So it's something for all of us to be aware of in our diets.
So there's a lot of authorised health claims actually for magnesium. It almost seems like it's a bit of like a superhero. It can do a lot of things. There's claimed that it can do a lot of things. I guess that is almost music to a lot of people's ears, that it can almost fight a lot of things or help you do a lot of things. Can you see why a lot of people are kind of turning their eyes to magnesium a lot more now?
I think because that it has so many different functions in the body, and because also, and we'll get into this, but a lot of people don't get enough of it in their diet, it's sort of a marketer's dream, magnesium, because it becomes something that people actually often do feel better if they supplement with it, because maybe they were a bit low in it before, and then they do start to notice the benefits. And so actually I can see why people are so interested in it from a supplement manufacturer's perspective, but also there is reason for the general public to be interested in it too.
And I mentioned this in the intro, didn't I, about whether or not it could help you sleep better at night. This is kind of one of the big health claims around it, isn't it? That you should take this supplement, maybe at night just before you go to bed, and it could help you sleep. What's the science behind this? What do we actually know?
So actually, there isn't an authorised health claim regarding magnesium and sleep.
I should say, although there's not a claim, it is claimed by a lot of people. Isn't that fair to say? That's exactly it. But there's a difference there, isn't there?
Yeah, if you look on social media or you are on social media, you'll have been bombarded by adverts for magnesium supplements that can help you sleep better. They can help your muscles relax after exercise, etc. There's a lot of claims. But actually, if we focus on the sleep aspect, magnesium is really important in our nervous system, but also our muscle function. So actually, it can help. We think that's where the sleep aspect comes from. It helps your muscles relax. It also helps your nervous system relax. So actually, both of those are key when you're going to sleep at night. So that's where that claim comes from.
So it's almost like as if it's a byproduct of an actual authorised health claim that it actually has.
That's right, yeah. And you'll find lots of people take magnesium to help them sleep.
And in terms of the different types of magnesium, is there a particular type that may benefit you in this sort of area?
There is claims on websites and things like that from supplement providers and elsewhere that different forms of magnesium glycinate, magnesium malate, for example, are better for sleep or muscle relaxation or whatever it might be. In reality, when we look at the health claims, all magnesium's grouped in together. So from our perspective and from a sort of the bulk of scientific evidence around this, we would say that magnesium is much of a muchness. And as long as you're choosing one that's highly bioavailable, you can use it in your body, then you'll be fine.
We should say as well, actually, on series 1 of this podcast, we did a full episode on sleep, tips to help you get a better night's sleep. We'll pop a link in the show notes if you want to go back and listen to that. But sticking with magnesium, you, Sophie, mentioned a little bit earlier on about how a lot of us should potentially be taking a supplement of this. How can we spot if we're actually deficient and we should be taking it? What are there some obvious warning signs?
Well, I think more so we should look at the data, which will give us a bit more of an accurate representation or a bit more of a generalised representation, perhaps, of what's going on. And there's a survey called the NDNS, the National Diet and Nutrition Survey, which looks at many, many people's diets across the country. And what we know from the most recent data from that is that many people are not reaching their requirements for magnesium every day. And unfortunately, that's partly because it's in lots of whole foods, beans and pulses, lentils, seeds, in things like nuts and other foods, green leafy vegetables, things that we're perhaps not getting enough of day to day. And that deficiency or that dietary lack of magnesium spans across almost every age group. So from teenage girls and teenagers all the way up until the elderly. So there's lots and lots of people that have a dietary shortfall in magnesium. The other aspect to this is that certain lifestyle factors use up more magnesium in the body. So first of all, people are not getting enough at population level, but then also lifestyle factors like too much stress, coffee, alcohol, exercise. Lots of these common lifestyle factors mean that we use up more magnesium in the body or excrete more magnesium in our urine. And so we can end up in a situation where we're not only just not getting enough, but we're also using more than we were. And that's where people can really benefit from a supplement or really focusing in their diet on higher sources of magnesium.
I'm listening to that list of things. So coffee, I guess a lot of us have that, in the morning.
Yeah.
Alcohol, maybe Friday night, you're having a glass of wine or something. Exercise, I'm presuming you're talking about doing exercise rather than lack of it.
Absolutely.
Maybe you do the park run on a Saturday morning. There it goes again. Stress, a lot of us do lead busy lives and we're getting a bit more stressed. So it shows that, a lot of us are probably very deficient. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, or at least sort of borderline deficient in that range where supplementation may well have some benefits. And I think that sort of perfect storm in a way is what's made magnesium supplements really boom, because not only are the companies hooking into this, but also people take them and they say, wow, I felt so much better, and they tell their friends and they pass the message on.
And you mentioned about diet, Shafali. We shouldn't be jumping straight for magnesium supplements, should we? Should we actually be, first of all, looking at our diet and thinking, how can I improve my diet to then get more magnesium in a more natural way?
Yeah, I guess we would always say diet first. So if you can include more green leafy veg into your diet, more whole grains, more nuts and seeds, those are all foods that will be providing magnesium. There's also avocados and fish. Have I forgotten anything else?
Bananas, dark chocolate.
There you go. So there's lots of food sources for magnesium in the diet. Yeah, there are a lot. But also, I think it's important to say that for some people, as you get older, you might not absorb as much. If you have malabsorption issues such as celiac disease or Crohn's, then actually that can affect how much you absorb as well from your diet. So in situations like that, then supplementation can be useful as well.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point that we should try and reiterate then. There are certain groups of people, as you just mentioned, where possibly trying to get enough magnesium through a diet isn't actually possible.
Yeah, you might be getting it, but you might not be absorbing it.
And for the general public then, as we sort of touched on there, we might not be getting enough, or full stop, we might not be getting enough. Are there some very obvious signs, even if we don't just consider, oh, well, yeah, I do drink some alcohol, I do drink too much coffee, are we going to feel maybe like lethargic or something? Is there a very obvious sign, or is it quite difficult?
Unlike iron deficiency, for example, where we can say, yes, you'll be short of breath if you're iron deficient and you'll be really tired. Magnesium is more of those sort of grumbling background symptoms, like perhaps not sleeping as well, feeling more stressed and anxious, muscles not recovering as well after exercise. These sorts of things which are really nondescript and also aren't something that you can really hang your hat on and say it's definitely magnesium deficiency. And for that reason, I think, again, it becomes really useful as a marketing tool, because all of these things that everyone experiences could be magnesium deficiency. But I think it is one of those things that's much more difficult to clearly describe and say for sure that something's magnesium deficiency.
And then on the flip side then, we touched on people who will possibly benefit more than others from taking a supplement. What about those who we may advise not to take a magnesium supplement at all? I'm presuming there are certain groups of people who should sort of be a bit wary.
Yeah. As with any kind of supplement, they're not risk-free. And so we touched on this in the last episode, if you are taking any prescription medication, then do check with your GP, your pharmacist, or even a dietitian about mixing supplements with medication, because they can affect how well your medication works. With magnesium, I think people who have kidney issues perhaps shouldn't take supplements, or maybe want to check with their doctor before they do start. And then there's another group of people who may have IBS symptoms, so irritable bowel syndrome. And there are certain forms of magnesium, which I'm sure we'll touch upon when we talk about the types of magnesium supplement. Some forms of magnesium can irritate or exacerbate diarrhea symptoms and cause diarrhea. So actually, if you're someone who has IBS, you probably don't want to take that form of magnesium.
And ironically, diarrhea can cause magnesium deficiency. So you're taking more magnesium in the wrong form, getting more diarrhea, losing more magnesium, and then that can become a bit of a vicious cycle for people.
On a day-to-day basis, or at least sort of over the last year or so in your day-to-day job, have you seen more people asking you about magnesium?
Yeah, all the time. It's everywhere. And most people, I would say, that I see, and bear in mind it's a fairly affluent population that I'm looking after, most people are taking some form of magnesium now.
Really?
Which is new in the last year or so, I would say. Yeah.
And do you put this down to kind of, this boom around vitamins and supplements, and people almost feel like it almost feels a bit like a trend, although it shouldn't be, but I guess people are sort of wanting to hop on board. Is that fair to say?
I think that every year, all the time, there's something new that comes on the market that it sort of focuses everyone's attention in on that particular thing. And at the moment it's magnesium, and in the next couple of weeks it'll probably be something else, but at the moment it's a big thing. And I think because it does make a big difference to some people, and there is some evidence that we need it, it's a valid thing to be focusing on for now, I suppose.
Well, we'll be getting into our reviews. Again, we've had these under the microscope, haven't we, a little bit recently. We'll be touching on that a little bit later on for our members. But for some general advice, how much magnesium should we be taking? I imagine there's a lot of supplements with higher doses or lower doses. General advice, how much should we be taking?
So the reference nutrient intake for magnesium is 375 milligrams a day. And actually, the NHS says that really you should try to avoid taking over 400 milligrams a day because a high dose can cause diarrhea.
And again, for some more general advice for when people are in the supermarket or in a pharmacy or a chemist, what should they look for on the shelf? There's going to be a lot of brands out there. There's going to be a lot of different types of magnesium. Just generally, as this booms, what should people be looking for? I feel like a lot of people be overwhelmed looking at the amount of products on the shelf.
Yeah, I think a key thing to say is that it's specifically magnesium citrate that causes diarrhea.
Okay.
So for most people, you want to avoid a magnesium citrate supplement for obvious reasons, but also because it can cause magnesium deficiency in itself. The other thing to be aware of is that if you're taking magnesium, sometimes it can make you feel quite thirsty. I would say anecdotally from patients, if you're not drinking enough water, people can wake up feeling quite hungover when they take magnesium.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you don't necessarily want to start specifically with the highest dose. You want to think about starting with a slightly lower dose and maybe building up a little bit, or seeing how you land if you've taken that for a little while. So I would say it's not about the highest dose. It's about maybe sidestepping the magnesium citrate. Other forms of magnesium are more bioavailable, and we'll get into that in a minute. But it's also one of those supplements where if it's only a single ingredient supplement, you probably also don't want loads of bulking agents and fillers in there, right? They're not necessary in the same sort of way as they can be in other products. So you want something that's relatively low in bulking agents and fillers, not magnesium citrate, ideally magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate, which is really well absorbed. That's the main thing to look for, really.
It's interesting that Sophie mentions the sort of side effects of if you're not drinking enough water alongside supplements. For you, I guess, does this almost hammer the point home about if you are taking vitamins and supplements, this should be alongside a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle? Drinking enough water is almost a basic, and I guess a lot of people don't actually drink enough water. So you should be drinking enough water alongside then taking supplements.
Yeah, and also it's about fitting them into your daily routine. So, for example, I started taking magnesium supplements for sleep to see if it would help my sleep. But actually, and I've told Sophie this, they gave me really vivid dreams.
Oh, really?
And I looked it up afterwards online, and loads of other people reported having this too. So Sophie advised me to perhaps halve my dose, but also take it earlier on in the daytime. And since she's done that, I'm not taking it because it doesn't fit my routine. So I just think, if you are spending money on supplements, it's really important you work out how they're going to fit into your daily routine, because actually the most important thing is you take them regularly.
Well, I think this is the perfect time for us to talk about some of the very best magnesium supplements on the market. We've had them under the microscope. Now, this section is exclusively available to our Which members. So if you are already a member, there is a link in the show notes for you to click and you can head right through and listen right now. If you're not a member already, don't worry, you can get 50% off the first year of a Which membership by going to which.co.uk/podcast offer. But for now, Shefali, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And Sophie, thank you.
Thank you.